goodness. I got to get extra amped, extra fired up because I've been fighting the cold all week, man, but I've been fighting a good fight. And I say like this, I say this to my kids, man, sometimes you got to play hurt. Sometimes you don't have your best stuff, so you got to dig deep inside. And I'll tell you, I went inside twice. I meditated twice this morning because I got to let the good vibes flow. Check out this cup. I brought this mug up today. So if you're not watching, look at this. Positive vibes. It's got a Care Bear on it. And I am such a Maxinista that I can't go into TJ Maxx without coming out with another coffee mug. And I picked this one this morning, Positive Vibes, because I'm feeling fired up because, listen, I get this charmed life, man. I am the nonprofit sector connector. I was in a meeting earlier this morning with my buddy Ken Serini and my friends over at Health Pass, and we were talking. And Ken goes, yeah, Tommy D, he's a little bit extra. He the self-proclaimed nonprofit sector connect. Sure, I am the self-proclaimed, except everybody calls me that now. So it isn't just a thing that I made up anymore. It started that way. Be careful what you wish for. And Willy Wonka, what does he say at the end of the movie? He says, what happens to the little boy who got everything he ever wanted? Well, he lived happily ever after. And I'm pretty much living pretty happy right now. 4 healthy kids, a great wife, and this successful business we have, Vanguard Benefits, and certainly this journey called Philanthropy and Phocus, which, oh my God, just so many cool things going on. Shout out to the New York City Imagine Awards. I already mentioned Ken Serini. New York City Imagine Awards is just a matter of weeks. October 17th at Gustavino's in New York City, the 3rd annual Imagine Awards, honoring and awarding and recognizing the incredible work nonprofits are doing. Go to nycimagineawards.com. I've been involved with the Imagine Awards here on Long Island for about 6 or 7 years, and right from the beginning with the New York City Imagine Awards. So it'll be one of those things that I could say, I remember when we started this thing, 20, 30 years from now, the New York City Imagine Awards. So 18 days away, get your ticket, hook up with me, Tommy D. .nyc on Instagram or on my email address, Tommy D at Philanthropy and Phocus, PHOCUS.com. That's how you can get me. What the heck does a nonprofit sector connector actually do? Well, I'll tell you, as I think about what went on this week, Tuesday night, I was with a gang called Philanthropy Network of New York at a networking meeting. Wednesday night, I was with the Queens Chamber of Commerce with their nonprofit committee at Maple Grove Cemetery out in Queens. There was a panel discussion. And then right after that, I headed out to the Spirit of Huntington Arts Center, where I'm a board member, and had a networking event with a small wine tasting. A shout out to Darcy Carlton, my friend from One Hope. They give back 10% of their revenue to nonprofit organizations. But a wine tasting, we're at the Spirit of Huntington. Michael Katakis, my friend and executive director of Spirit of Huntington, did a great project for us. We did one of the Van Gogh pictures, and we used charcoal and pastels. And I will tell you, I don't actually do drawing and painting or any of that very often, but it is cathartic, and it is a great way to sort of relax, and certainly a fun event to network. And then last night, I got an invitation to a Moment of Magic's gala. My friend Kylie McGrain, who founded A Moment of Magic, which is an organization that goes into hospitals to help young people, young children who are experiencing some serious illnesses. And while I'm there, I see my friend Ray Moeller from his organization, Little St. Nick Foundation, same kind of thing. They're serving these young people who are in need and having health challenges. And I remember that I connected them. I put Kylie together with Ray, and then we all got invited, and we were all there last night. So shout out to all my friends in the nonprofit sector. That's what a nonprofit sector connector does. Just has a lot of fun making special relationships. And a lot of it started on this show. A lot of it started 140 some odd episodes where I bring on a nonprofit executive leader to help he or she tell their story and amplify their message. And that's what it's all about to me, because I do have a big mouth. I have some reach. People pay attention to what I'm talking about. And I'm a bit of a showman, P.T. Barnum, that sort of thing, a bit of a showman, I think. And I see a whole other iteration of this where I'm going to, I'm talking to somebody, we're going to do it. I have a guy who's a film student, and we're going to go on location, probably one day a month, where I do a whole day with a nonprofit organization. We turn that into a series, into a show. So who knows? Maybe I'm coming down to Maryland to meet in person my friend Rob Scheer. Rob Scheer, before we even get into it, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. It's a great day here in Rockville, Maryland.
I love it, man. It's a pretty great day here on Long Island, although rainy. I literally, it's been raining up here forever. And then there was like this one day where the sun came back, and then it was raining again 2 days in a row. So, but listen, you know what? We need rain. It helps the plants grow, right? It helps everything. It helps. We need water. It's important for us because we drink water, right? All right, let's stop being silly, Tommy. But Rob, right? I heard you got a beautiful day down by you.
Yeah. It's a little bit cloudy right now, but the weekend's going to be nice. And so, every day I wake up and, I put my feet on the floor. It's a good day.
I love that. Isn't that the truth, man? And if we all have that mindset and that perspective and just think in terms of let's be grateful, find the gratitude, man, especially being at this event last night with a moment of magic and seeing these families who have a child going through chemotherapy and serious treatment, and some of these families who have lost a child, lost a baby. God, man, we really have to be grateful for what we have every single day. And if we come from gratitude and we come from love and we come from compassion, I think at times maybe even I used to be afraid to just say, we got to love everybody, man. We got to have compassion. We got to show support. We got to find that place. And maybe for men, it's not as easy, but I'm telling you straight up, I just want to hug freaking everybody. Just hug the world, man. Make it a better place. I feel it. I said it to Rob in a virtual green room. I said, I don't know, man. I'm feeling extra sensitive, extra emotional today. And our topic of discussion is certainly probably it help it or affecting me and expressing it. And I'll tell you this, listen to what I'm going to read to you before we even get into this conversation with Rob. More than 700 children enter the foster care system every day. Common practice is for the child to be handed a trash bag that they must quickly gather their belongings before being shuttled to a foster home or facility. The symbolic nature of a trash bag, an object meant for garbage and waste, can be representative of the situational instability experienced by a child in foster care. It can also represent a lack of self-worth and paralyzing fear during a time of uncertainty. I am with my wife raising 4 young children. And I told you I meditated twice this morning. And it was one before I drove everybody to school and once after I drove everybody to school, because they're 13, 12, 10, and 8. And that is a challenge. And they're having their emotional challenges and issues every morning. And for the most part, they have a stable situation at home. So I cannot even imagine. When I say that, I don't say that as hyperbole. I am unable to imagine what it would be like for a young person. I was raised by both my parents. Not every day was roses and rainbows, but I was in a stable environment. Many children are not in that environment. I thought that's a good place to set it up. Rob Scheer, your organization is called Comfort Cases. I'm so jazzed. If it wasn't for my buddy Mick Collins, right, hooking us up, making a connection we don't meet. Gang, if it isn't for the people in your world, your social capital, the relationships you have, thinking of you and you thinking of them in reciprocity, well, then it doesn't work. It's all about the connections, man. Rob, welcome again to the show. I love your background. Tell us your story. Tell us who you are. Let's get into it.
Yeah, you know what? I have the best job in the entire world. I'm a dad. Yeah. And the fact for me, Tommy, is that is all I ever wanted to be, was a dad. I didn't have a childhood like most people do. I'm actually the youngest of 10 kids. My mother had been married 6 times. She lived in and out of every shelter in Maryland, Virginia, and DC. I never remember a picture on the wall. I never remember a Christmas tree. I never remember a birthday cake. And I never remember her looking at me and saying, I love you. But what I do remember is the monster that she used to allow to live in our home, whatever home we could be living in that day. And that monster was my father. And, for a child who comes into the foster care system and a child who's in an abusive, neglectful home, it's all we know. And so for me as a young boy, I thought that it was common for a father to put cigarettes out on their children. I thought it was common for a father to rape his daughters and rape his sons. I thought that that's the way life was supposed to be. And I was worried that if I told anyone, what would happen to me? Because understanding, even as a child, as young as I was, and by the way, I remember being 4 or 5 years old and sitting in a room with my brothers and sisters and hearing him come into the house and thinking, oh my God, please don't let today be the day he calls my name. And sure enough, he would call my name, and I would run as fast as I could to the refrigerator, and I would grab that Pabst Blue Ribbon, and I would run back to the chair. And I knew no matter how fast I ran, I was going to get the cherry of the cigarette put out on my leg. I'm 56 years old, and every day I get reminded about the abuse that I went through. And see, I had already started hearing about the word foster care. My brothers and sisters had already started falling to the wayside: teenage pregnancy, incarceration, drug addiction, all that we hear when it comes to foster care. And so social workers were already coming in and they were taking kids, but nobody took me. Nobody looked at me. Nobody bothered to lift the shirt up to see the bruises that were all covered on my body. And so when I was 12 years old, I finally went into the system. And I thought to me that this was the greatest thing that was ever going to happen. I thought that I was getting ready to go into a home where, one, I wasn't going to ever be hungry again. No one was going to hold food as a punishment for me. No one was ever going to beat me. No one was ever going to put a cigarette out on me. And I was going to go to a family that wanted me, because that's what I thought families want in foster care. And instead, I was handed this, a trash bag. I was given moments to gather some of the items that I had. It was 1979. I'll never forget it. 12 years old. And I remember walking up the driveway to my first foster home. And I remember as I stood in that driveway, I thought to myself, I wonder if they have a dog, and I wonder if they have kids, and I wonder if they're going to love me. And I remember when I walked into the front door, the two foster parents were standing there. They didn't even look at me. They didn't even acknowledge. They looked at my trash bag and started to pull the items out, talking to each other, letting each other know that there was nothing but torn and tattered clothes in that trash bag. And I do remember that all of a sudden she said, he needs to take a shower, and walked me down a hallway and told me she put me in a bathroom and shut the door. At that moment, as a 12-year-old boy, I wanted to feel that cigarette so bad on my leg, because at least if I felt the cigarette, I knew that my dad was there. And now I was alone. And the only thing I could see was a bar of soap that was actually lying in the bathtub. And as I looked at that bar of soap, I realized at that moment that my life had completely changed. See, the fact is that children enter foster care because of choices other people made. We are not bad kids. We are not kids that deserve to be degraded. And we're not kids that deserve not to have any type of respect. And to get into a shower and to use a bar of soap of total strangers, that's just not happening. And it happens every day, every single day. And to that point, I knew, Tommy, that bar of soap was going to change my life. And it did.
Oh, God. We're up against a break. Let's take one, because I don't know. I'm floored, and we all have to talk about Rob. Let's take a quick one. We'll be right back.
You got it, my friend.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business, or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mara Broncu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 1 p.m. Eastern on Fridays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
What really drives success in business? Introducing Intangify, the show that explores the intangible assets that create value and growth. I'm Matthew Asbell, your host and an attorney focused on innovation. Join me Fridays at noon Eastern to discover how innovation, culture, and other intangibles shape thriving companies, from startups to established businesses. We'll share strategies to unleash your business's true potential. Tune in live on talkradio.nyc Fridays at noon Eastern and Intangify your business today.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
Attic. The show is Philanthropy and Phocus. It's a nonprofit sector connector. All right, Rob, thank you for your candor. Thank you for the beginnings of this story for sure. And your life was going to change and had changed. And, you know, I think naively, many of us who are have not been, as you say, in the system, think that it's a good situation, that these foster parents are there because they care about children and they want to be there. I mean, you know, walking up that driveway, your thoughts of an improved life. That do they have a dog? Do they have kids? You know, I mean, I don't know why it's coming up for me now, but I think of, you know, every time my kids and my wife give me a hard time because I cry at the movie Annie. And I always cried at the movie Annie, and it was always because like when she sings that song Maybe, you know, and that's what I was thinking about when you were telling us about walking up that driveway, and the positivity and you know what you thought it was going to be, and it wasn't that at all.
Yeah, it really wasn't. But you know what? I made the decision in that bathroom that I was going to be that kid that you were going to love, that I was going to be that kid that you wanted. So I would wake up in the morning and I would clean their kitchen before they ever asked me to. And I always would watch their 3 biological children because, by the way, they reminded me all the time, these are my biological kids and this is our foster kid. Yeah, you never, ever once put a picture of me on the mantle where you put your other 3 kids. Yes, you always dropped me off at a stranger's house while you took your kids to Disney World and to the beach. And then you would pick me up a week later and I'd have to sit in the back seat and I would have to listen to their vacation because kids in foster care, we don't get to do those kind of things. But for me, I wanted to be the kid you loved. So every day I went to school, every Sunday I went to church. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. You know, and as the years were going by, I really was thinking, oh my gosh, this is my family. You know, I actually called her mom because I thought she loved me. And I called him dad because somewhere deep down, I really thought he cared about me. And then it all changed. The fall of 1984. As a matter of fact, it's only going to be a couple of weeks away from that day. And I had turned 18. I had a little bit of cockiness in my step as I walked home from school that day. I was a senior in high school. Tell me, the fact that people do not understand that only 54% of the 438,000 children actually graduate from high school. Only 54%. And the fact that I was getting ready to graduate from high school, no one in my family had ever graduated from high school, and I was going to do it. And as I walked up that driveway and I walked into that front door, there it was, my trash bag, sitting in the middle of the living room. I couldn't believe it. I hadn't thought about it for years. And I looked at my mom and I called her mom. And I said, what is this? And she says, you have to leave. And I looked at my dad and I said, leave? This is my home. He says, no, this is your house. He says, we're not getting a check any longer because you're now 18 and you have to leave. Wow. Where was I going to go? See, the fact is kids like me, you stick us in psychiatric hospitals, you stick us in juvenile detention centers, you stick us in group homes where we're beat, you know. And now all of a sudden, I'm 18 years old and I'm homeless. I remember I walked out that front door with my trash bag. I remember that first night, I was so scared. What was I going to do? Who was I going to tell? Where was I going to go? I found a place to sleep underneath this bridge by the Kmart. And the next morning I woke up and I walked to school and I took my trash bag and I hid it behind a bush. And I walked into school. And I did that day after day after day. And by the way, those kids that pushed me in the locker, you didn't have to do that. I already knew I smelled. I already knew that I hadn't brushed my teeth in who knows how long. I already knew the fact that there were holes in my shoes because I felt the water every single time it rained. And yes, you did catch me in the lunchroom stealing food out of a trash can that you didn't eat. because I didn't know if I'd eat that night. I had a job making $3.35 an hour at a local taco place, and they had found out that I was the token homeless kid in town. And so they would leave the outside bathroom door unlocked so I could sleep there at night. And I remember that I would go to the library and I'd read every book I got my hands on, because I knew that if I could educate my mind, that I would educate my future. And I'd sit in Mrs. Brown's English class and I'd watch the guidance counselor come in and pull kids out to ask them what their future was. You never looked at me. You never acknowledged me. See, the fact is that if you looked at me, if you acknowledged me, then you must accept you failed me. June 1985. I had made it. I had made it to graduation day. I remember having to go down to the office and ask, could I borrow a cap and gown, because I couldn't afford to rent one of those. And I remember they gave me one and it was so big and barely the cap, but I was standing in that line with all the other kids because I earned it and I deserved it. And I remember as the kids snickered behind me because of my odor, but I was going to walk across that stage and get that piece of paper, because my community had taught me that if I got that diploma, it truly would change my life. And sure enough, they started to call names, one kid after the next. You could hear the clapping in the auditorium getting louder and louder. And then all of a sudden they called my name. Exactly. No one clapped. No one cheered. No one cared. See, the fact is the trash bag that was handed to me in 1979 did its job, made me feel disposable, invisible, that I did not matter. I remember I actually left that auditorium. I didn't even go back to my seat. I went back to the back parking lot and I actually sat there and cried. I wanted that teacher who used to bring me extra food to please come and find me, but no one did. See, the fact is at that moment, I wanted to feel that cigarette again on my leg, because at least I knew my dad was there. I wanted to say to my foster parents, how could you give up on me because of a check? And then for all of you, my community, I wanted to say, why? Why did you not feel that boy who worked so hard to make it across that stage, that not one of you could have clapped for me? I actually walked the streets for a couple of more days, and I'd realized at that moment that I only had 3 choices. See, that's all the community gives kids in foster care, Tommy, is they only give us 3 choices. Choice number 1, give up. Give up. Suicide rate in foster care is higher than we have ever seen. And yes, there were many times I thought about suicide. Number 2, give in. Do exactly what you think we are supposed to do. Petty crimes, go into the detention centers, do all of those things that you think we as bad kids in foster care do. Or number 3, give it all I got. And that's exactly what I did, my friend.
Wow. I wrote give up, give in, or give it all I got, Rob. And I wrote down a couple minutes ago, resilience, because I think that most people don't have the resilience and the fortitude and the fight and drive that you had to go through all that, and maybe wouldn't have even gone to school after that 18th, getting handed the bag again, and might not have, and I have to imagine with this community and these young people, when they age out, as I guess is the right term, at 18, they probably at times will turn to different substances or different behaviors, because to feel better, to feel numb, to not feel so sad and bad and alone and desperate. And I try, when I say these things, not to make any assumptions, but I just know people, and I know even my own behavior at times in my life when I was sad and things. Do you see that in this community? Many young people make that choice.
Tommy, it's the numbers are absolutely staggering. The fact is, as you and I have this conversation today, 80% of our death row inmates were in foster care. Just think about that. 80% of our death row inmates were in foster care.
We're failing, Rob. We're failing these young people. 438,000 young people you're saying are in school right now. They're in
in our system. This year alone, we will see 30,000 of those children age out of foster care, just like I did.
Yeah.
And the saddest part is 70% of them, they will become homeless within the first 12 months. Homeless. Why?
Do they-
Because we have not set them up. We have not prepared them. We have not done what we should be doing as a community, which is to understand that these children belong to us. You know, we ride in on these white horses and we take them from their families. And by the way, I am not saying that every single child, you know, needs to be in foster care, because I don't believe that. 64% of kids who are in foster care, 64%, they're in for one word: neglect. Neglect. Okay. Neglect is no more than poverty. The electricity, I take your kids. You can't put food on the table, I take your kids. You can't get a babysitter, so you leave your 2-year-old with your 10-year-old, so you go to your job, I take your kids. You know, the fact is that I had to be taken. The abuse was out of control.
Right.
But my 5 kids that I have adopted out of foster care, 2 of my 5 children, they should have never been taken from their mother. Never. They were only taken because of the fact of poverty. You know?
Let me ask you that, because I'm with you. So let's kind of break this down if we could, and kind of, if you could help me crack the code, because I think a lot of things in our society end up somewhere in this financial situation. So I am naive to this, so I will ask you, as somebody who is in this work, what is the game? What is the system? What does it look like if we could, like, because this to me sounds like, you know, a parallel to mass incarceration, you know, a parallel to a system that there's someone getting paid here, Rob, right? I mean,
of course. Let me tell you something. It is an industry that makes money on the backs of children. And it's the reason why the industry does not want to change.
Right.
Okay? The fact is not every foster parent is bad. I want everybody to know that. But the problem is that the majority of them are in it for the money. And it is a money-making thing. There are so many things you get when you become a foster parent. Number one, you get a monthly stipend per child. Some states pay as high as $1,000 per month, and you do not have to take a penny of that money and spend it on the child. You get what they call WIC. You get Section 8 if you need it. You get full medical, full dental. You get daycare provided for. I mean, there's so many things. I mean, you can literally have 6 kids living in your home, and you can make roughly about $67,000. I mean, that's a lot of money, you know, and you're not having to spend any of that. And by the way, it's not taxed either. And that is the thing that just blows my mind, is that you can pay a stranger, okay, a stranger, to take care of a child, but we can't give that parent a helping hand to get them.
Give that $1,000 to the mom so she can pay the light bill and pay the food bill and give her the support of the dad. Let's not just make it moms. I'm just referencing what you said earlier with your 2 children. Dads and moms, we're screwing up. I'm not putting these words in Rob's mouth. We're making mistakes here. Why is the homelessness population so high? Why? I get pissed off on this program, and I get up on my soapbox and I say, why is it okay that 20 yards away from a man eating an $80 steak can someone be eating out of a trash can? Why is that okay? It's not.
Let me tell you something, Tommy, to cut you off. I'm telling you why it's not, why it's happening. It's because we have forgotten why communities were built. Our forefathers built communities for one reason, and that was for us to take care of each other, And we have forgotten that. We have become such a me population that instead of being an us population. That is why we have the deterioration of our communities, because we don't care about each other.
Why? Look, now I'm gonna go after capitalism. I'm gonna go after Madison Avenue real quick, okay? Because here's what I'm gonna say: you need more stuff, gang. You know why you feel bad? Because you don't have the fancy car. You know why you don't feel good about yourself? Because you don't have the new dress. You know why? Because you don't have the new sneakers. Because you don't have the this and you don't have the that. And I guarantee this: I know plenty of people who got all the stuff and still feel pretty shitty. All right. So it ain't the stuff. It's not. It's the community. It's the relationships. It's the connection. What is the antidote to addiction? Connection, right? This is what we need. We must find a way to be back together. But guess what? They want it this way. It's better that way, because if we're not connected as a community, well, then we'll feel bad and we'll buy more stuff and we'll think we need more stuff. Gang, you don't need it all. You really don't. A nice pair of nice clothes, a nice outfit, and some food is great. Don't have to be like ridiculous. It doesn't have to be ostentatious, man. They telling us the wrong things. We're being taught the wrong things. Stop looking at this stuff. Rob, I'm just going to go off the rails here, but talk to me about this situation where you just mentioned 80% of inmates on death row come from the justice system. Why wouldn't that be, gang? Why wouldn't that be when your back is against the freaking wall and you don't know what to do and you're scared and you're 18, 19, you're a kid on the street, living on the street, and you got to fight.
Joining a gang, by the way, joining a gang because you want that, right? You want that acceptance of a family. Yep. And that is why we see kids from the system immediately gravitate towards gangs. By the way, the other thing that people don't want to talk about is the fact that 78% of children who are human trafficked in the United States, 78% are children from foster care.
Well, you told me when we first met, Rob, that's because they're invisible. They don't exist, right? So
They call them AWOL. Let me tell you something. Yeah. One of my children's missing. I'm putting their picture on a billboard. In children in foster care, right now, we have 23,000 children in the United States. We have no accountability of where they are. We don't know where they are. And by the way, those foster parents are still getting that monthly stipend.
They don't get the check?
Oh, yeah, they're still getting that check.
All right, there's a lot that needs to be fixed here, and we're going to talk about what Comfort Cases does to support these children and give back. We're going to be right back. Logan, let's make it a quick break. Let's come right back. Philanthropy and Focus.
Are you passionate about the conversation around racism? Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. TLC, host of the Dismantle Racism Show, which airs every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc. Join me and my amazing guests as we discuss ways to uncover, dismantle, and eradicate racism. That's Thursdays at 11 o'clock a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
In a post-COVID world, you may have many unanswered questions regarding your health. Are you looking to live a healthier lifestyle? Do you have a desire to learn more about mental health and enhance your quality of life? Or do you just want to participate in self-understanding and awareness? I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each Thursday, I will tackle these questions and work to enlighten you. Tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will be frank about health to advocate for all of us.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy and Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
January 8th. 2021, I came up to this attic and I started this journey called Philanthropy and Focus. And I started with an organization called Horseability, my friend Katie McGowan. I love Katie. She's a great friend. I'm on the board of directors for Horseability. And I told you this, gang, when we started the show, that nonprofits change our world every single day. And it's the leaders of nonprofits that are making an impact. And if you want to be part of the change, hook up in your community. And we use that word, Rob and I just use that, but hook up in your community with the nonprofits that are the change makers, that are the leaders on the front lines. And I'm getting a hell of an education here today. And wherever you find this, if you're watching this, listening to this, you find it live tomorrow or in 6 months, you want to find out how you can help, you reach out to Rob Scheer. Rob, I don't want to be, because I'm not a naive guy. I'm really not. However, if you're not aware of certain things, you're just not aware of certain things. And if it's not connected to somebody's life, they just don't know. How do we educate people so they become more aware of the tragic way society is leaving these young people out there? And how else, without being prepared? So you're this 18-year-old young man, fired up. You're just turned 18. You're on your way home from school. Your expectations: I'm going to graduate this year. This is great. And then you find out you're on your own, like with no support. Like you didn't know where to go, but like where can you tell people to go? Like now, if somebody finds this.
Well, I mean, this is the issue. We do not prepare our youth who are aging out. And by the time we are getting ready to prepare them, they're so pissed off. You have to understand that in the first 1,000 days a child is in foster care, they have already gone to 7 different homes. That means 7 different schools. That means 7 different placements. That's the thing. Kids in foster care suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder twice the rate as our combat veterans coming back from the front line. See, for me, what I did, I ended up joining the military. I joined the United States Navy, and I didn't join it to protect anybody. I joined it because I needed a roof over my head. I then became a very successful businessman. And the thing is that I did exactly what my community wanted me to do. Think about me. I bought that big house because I thought I had to have it. I had those designer clothes because I thought I had to have it. I bought those sports cars because I thought I needed to have it. And I filled my bank account so fat I could take all your listeners to Disney World. But what happened to me, the light bulb moment, was when 14 years ago, I decided I wanted to be a dad. I remember telling my husband, it's the one dream I have. I have everything I want. I own banks all over the country. I said, don't want for anything. We've traveled the world, and I wanted children. And sure enough, 4 amazing kids within 3 months arrived on my doorstep. And they were 6 months, 2, 2, and 4, 2 sets of siblings, and all 4 of them carried a trash bag. And I was like, what the hell? Are you kidding me? After all of these years, they're still carrying trash bags. And the social worker says, well, what should they carry? I said, how about some dignity? But for me, it was all about just wanting to be a dad. And by the way, I wanted my kids to have everything, and they had everything. They went to private schools. They had passports when they were little. They've been all over the world. Right. And then 11 years ago, I am sitting at my office right outside of the nation's capital. And my husband walks into my office and he says, it's time for us to plan the toy drive. See, we as communities, we're known during the holidays to pat ourselves on the back and give those needy kids some toys. And I said, I don't want to do it. And he said, what do you mean? He says, the Scheers, we're known for the toy drives that we do every year in DC. And I said, what are we teaching our kids? I said, truly, what are we teaching our kids? I said, we've taught our kids the fact that our legacy is about what we take, and not what our legacy should be is about what we give. And he says, what do you want to do? And I opened up my desk drawer and I pulled out this very trash bag and I laid it on my desk. And I said, I want to eliminate trash bags in foster care. He said, you are batshit crazy. I said, I know, that's why you married me. I said, I know we can do this. I know that we can eliminate trash bags in DC for kids in our foster care system. I said, Reese, I can no longer be embarrassed about where I came from. See, the fact is, Tommy, I would sit in boardrooms and I would not tell people that I was a kid from the system because of the fact I didn't know the difference between there, and there. And the fact that I was worried that if you knew that about me, you would not break bread with me. But when I looked at my children, I realized that I had done a disservice to them. I tried to hide where they had come from. And by the way, my kids are 4 kids of color. They have 2 white dads. So it's not like I actually birthed them, but I didn't want people to know. And that was an embarrassment for my children. So I gathered some of my senior staff, I gathered local politicians, I gathered some members of our church, and I told my story, the story that I shared with you. The story of the 12-year-old boy who was broken and bruised and battered, and the boy who was given a trash bag. And I told the story about the 4 beautiful children who walked into my life, all 4 carrying a trash bag. How that the baby didn't even have a blanket. and how my daughter didn't even have a toothbrush, and how they had nothing truly of their own. See, I realized at that moment when I was 12 about that bar of soap, the bar of soap that I told you changed my life. Well, once again, that bar of soap came into my life because I had decided at that moment that every single child was going to receive a brand new pair of pajamas with a tag on it, that every child was going to get their own lotion, their own shampoo, their own conditioner, and their own bar of soap. I wanted to make sure that every single child got an activity. See, your listeners don't realize that 90% of kids who enter foster care actually enter in the back of a police cruiser. They're taken to what we call holding centers with nothing to do. I wanted kids under the age of 10 to get a coloring book and crayons, and kids over the age of 10 to get a journal and a pen and pencil set. I wanted every child to get a book, no matter what any of you think. And by the way, as an author, I wrote my book for two reasons. One, love it in your mind. Two, love it in your heart. But the most flattering thing you could ever do is pass a book on. Because there's no such thing as a used book. It's only a book that's been loved. And then I wanted every kid to get a stuffy, because I don't care whether you're a newborn or you're 56 years old. We all love a good stuffed animal. And then finally, a blanket. See, my son Grayson, he was actually 2 years old when he arrived in our home. His mother was 12. He came into the system with bleeding of the brain, shaken baby syndrome, and 3 broken ribs. My son at the age of 5 looked at me and said, "Daddy, we have to give every kid a blankie." I said, "A blankie?" I said, "Grayson, you know these kids are not cold." He said, "I know, Daddy, but every time they wrap themselves up in their blankie, they know we love them." Wow. Isn't that what we all want? We want to be loved. We want to know that we matter. We're not disposable. And so with that, we backed a case and another and another. And little would I know that the wave would go across our country, where our organization at comfortcases.org, we have actually packed and delivered over 220,000 cases. We have delivered them to all 50 states, DC and Puerto Rico. And I know I do not have to remind your smart listeners, Puerto Rico belongs to us. Yes, it is surrounded by water, but so is Hawaii. See, the fact is that we must understand something, that our community that we all live in is not our zip code. Our community is our human race. It's our human race. And when you invest in a child, the old saying that we all used to say, invest in a child, you invest in their future. That is a lie. That is a lie. Stop telling lies. When you invest in a child, you actually invest in your future. Your future. Why? Because they are our leaders of tomorrow.
I must just send gratitude out to you, Rob, and I got to send gratitude out to my friend Mick Collins, because like I said earlier when we started this show, if it isn't for my friends and seeing the opportunity to connect me with really, really special, important change makers, well, then you and I never meet. And, you know, and this is a big day and a big connection for me. And I'm so appreciative of the work you've done. 220,000 of these. And I have to, at 56 years old, you're just getting warmed up, baby. I gotta believe that, man. I gotta believe it. And I just, the website again is comfortcases.org, correct?
That is correct. That is correct. And in 2021, my family, when everybody was trying to figure out what to do about COVID, my family was actually opening up a center in the UK. So we now serve 84,000 children in the United Kingdom as well. And by the way, we're 96% volunteer ran. So that's unusual.
Tell me about the revenue. It's a huge revenue for an organization that's just that's run by.
Yeah. So we're a little over $5 million organization. We keep a tight belt. Yep. I actually sold all my stocks and all my banks, and I became a public speaker, and I travel the country educating people about children in foster care, understanding the fact that if we talk about it, then we normalize it. And that's how we make change. See, I'm a true believer that if you pick the low-hanging fruit from a tree, the tree will grow taller. To me, the low-hanging fruit is one, we get rid of trash bags. Unacceptable. Trash bags were made to put trash in, not children's clothes. Number two, stop sending your dirty, smelly luggage to an agency that has children in foster care, because we don't want your dirty, smelly luggage that's been in your basement, okay? We deserve new. Yeah. Number two, we have to make sure that we open up the education pathways for every single child in our foster care system. And that means don't just pay for tuition. We need to do wraparound services for these kids.
So aside from going to comfortcases.org, checking out the organization, obviously you're on a mission, you're telling your story. We're going to go to a break in a second, everybody. But Rob, how do they stay in touch with your work, what you're doing as a thought leader on this case?
Let me tell you something. They can follow me on all my social media platforms. Rob_Scheer on my Instagram. I post almost daily. I want people to know. I want people to see what is going on. And by the way, I know we got to take a quick break, but as you see, I have 5 kids on the back. Wall. And I actually talked about my 4 children. But in 2019, I was telling my story at a high school. And a young boy walked up to me and he had the same story, 18 years old, getting ready to age out. Well, that's a young boy my husband and I just adopted, and he is our 5th child. And he came to live with us at the age of 18, and we adopted him at 22.
Oh my God. Listen, I want to be a friend forever. I want to take you, I want to take you up here and connect you, virtually or otherwise, because there's so much. I'm on Long Island, and that's interesting. Not Long Island's the only place like this, but there are so many haves right next to so many have-nots, and it's the density of population of Long Island. You can move from one town to the next. I know this show is listened to all over the world, so I don't want to just say local, but many communities are like that, where you have the people destitute right up against the town where the people have $2, $3, $4 million homes. And it's very consistent here on Long Island in that regard, but I'm sure it goes on other places. And I think we need to be aware, because people just don't know, and there's a whole reason why people don't know, but the deal of it is we must stay focused in teaching. I got a comment from Mick Collins. Yes, Mick. So Rob Scheer, I've done 60 days of service. It was a campaign I just completed last week, actually with Little St. Nick Foundation. Mick Collins says, Tommy DeMisa, day of service, comfort cases, ? I'll join you. Mick Collins, yes, challenge accepted. I'll come down to Rockville, Maryland, whatever. I was just talking to Rob about what's going on in Rockville tomorrow as we sit here about a big event. We'll talk about that when we come back. Mick, I'll be there. We'll figure it out. I want to come down. Whatever you guys want me to do. Pack cases, deliver cases, I rented a U-Haul and picked up a whole bunch of diapers and drove them out. So let's do whatever we can do together. We'll be right back. Rob Scheer and Tommy D, the show is Philanthropy and Focus. Let's go. Let's keep making the world a better place. Right back.
What really drives success in business? Introducing Intangify, the show that explores the intangible assets that create value and growth. I'm Matthew Aspel, your host and an attorney focused on innovation. Join me Fridays at noon Eastern to discover how innovation, culture, and other intangibles shape thriving companies, from startups to established businesses. We'll share strategies to unleash your business's true potential. Tune in live on talkradio.nyc Fridays at noon Eastern and Intangify your business today.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy and Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move moving good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
And it's the lightning round. All right, Rob, host of Fostering Change, which is the weekly audio and video podcast that brings in guests of prominence to discuss issues regarding foster care, adoption, LGBTQ+, and other timely and topical issues. It's now in its 5th season. It has been ranked the #1 podcast for adoption and foster care issues for 3 consecutive years. Rob, before I read more of this stuff, where can they find that? Is that anywhere you get your podcast kind of deal?
Anywhere you get your podcast, you can go to our YouTube channel, or you can go to comfortcases.org, and we have embedded all of our 5 years of our podcast on there. Go back, listen to some past episodes. I will tell you, I never once in 1,000 years ever thought I would be doing a podcast. It fell into my lap, and I've just been so lucky. And the fact to be actually voted and to win the honor of having the best podcast for adoption and foster care is just, it's humbling. It's so humbling. But I think my producer for that, and I think my managers for that and stuff. But, you know, it's every Tuesday. It is some uplifting people. It's some amazing authors, lots of celebrities who people don't even realize that are connected to foster care. We are starting to see the change. And the change, as I say, stop blaming the system, stand next to me and help me change the system. That is what we're going to succeed.
I say this, gang, no big deal, just changing the world. And that's a little wink at the world because it is a big freaking deal. But that's the joke about it. Just get there, stand next to this man. He's in it. He's on the front lines. Get there, stand with him. Look, wrote a book, A Forever Family, Fostering Change from One Child at a Time. That's the book right there. Check it out. I want to get a copy of that book. And then 2022, May, he received the honorary doctoral degree, a doctorate of humane letters from Lynn University, where he also delivered the commencement speech that day. What's just, Rob, I am so freaking glad I met you, man. I can't wait to meet you in person and give you a hug. All right. Tell me what's coming up for the organization. Tell me how people can help. I also want to know, because this is what you told me the other day. Shout out to an organization out here called Little Flower. And they are an organization, an agency that works in this community with foster children. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't know much about the population, the aging out. I talk a lot, when I say aging out, I talk a lot about age 21, when individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities age out of school, which is a whole different thing. But I wasn't aware. I had some awareness coming into this meeting with you today, but obviously wasn't aware as I am now and what we've learned together today, or what you taught me. I want to ask, though, what do you need? And also, how can you help? Because what I understand is you don't charge for the comfort cases or the big old XL comfort bags. Talk about that program-wise.
No, we don't. So we, on our website, social workers, agencies that work with children in our foster care system are able to go on our website and they can order cases for free. Our cases go from birth up to the age of 21, and because every single state children age out at different ages. So we do birth up to the age of 21. And what we really need is we need you to stand next to us and become a bag buster. You know, for $10 a month. That's it. $10 a month. And most of you spend that at that overpriced coffee shop that you visit every week. $10 a month literally does the difference between me handing a child this or me handing a child dignity. And so I ask people to go to comfortcases.org and become a bag buster. You know, I ask for people to go to comfortcases.org and see when we're coming into their town, because we go everywhere, all over the country. We have these pop-up packing parties, and those cases stay right there. So when people donate to us, when people send things to us, they have to understand that we're already in your community. We send to everyone.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I want to get you, look, I'm connected to the Queen's Chamber of Commerce, you know, certainly love my friends over at the Queen's Chamber. Maybe there's a bag party there. Certainly would love to talk to you offline about getting you to Long Island and doing some work here, because as I talked about, you know, this is certainly my hometown. However, as Mick Collins has just challenged me, I will be down by you guys. I know I'm going to be in DC with Mick Collins for another nonprofit organization in the fall, later in the fall. So maybe we link it up there, Mick, when we're down there with the Bob Feller Act of Valor Award, which we end up down in DC. So we'll talk all about that. Shout out to Cerebral Wind. I agree with you. It sickens me the way these children are taken advantage of. It's tragic. Cerebral, appreciate you. Thanks for all the support and watching the show. Look, man, Rob, I didn't really even know what Twitch was. Now I got people watching the show on Twitch, man. All the gamers are big Tommy D fans. No big deal, just changing the world. It's funny. I the only game I play is sometimes I play Madden football with my boys, my sons. I get beat only every time. But I see them playing Fortnite, and that looks like a fun game. Anyway, I'm not into the games too much because I'm too busy hanging out with nonprofit leaders. Rob, what's going on tomorrow? Tell us about it. I know it's sold out, but tell us about it.
Yeah, it's sold out. I mean, sold out. Every year we have a big event. We have a big benefit. Prior to COVID, we used to call it a gala. We put on a tux, and it just wasn't us. And, my husband and I, we're dads of 5 kids. We actually live on a farm. We have, chickens and the fact that I just wanted to go back to where we started. And so what we do is we have a barbecue benefit. And so we have over 350 people that'll be arriving. You can actually go to comfortcases.org. And even though that the event is sold out, you can bid on auction items. Okay. And I'm talking everything from trips to Italy, to Harlem Globetrotters, to trips to New York City, New Year's Eve in Nashville, Tennessee, for the Grand Ole Opry. So you can still do that. So comfortcases.org, and go there, find out all the information, and just do me a big favor. Continue to be good humans. Good humans. That's what it's about.
Yeah. Sorry, gang. He's not setting the bar that freaking high. He's just asking you to be good and loving and compassionate and freaking help everybody else out. No big deal. We're not asking a lot. Stop being so freaking selfish and buying more junk. Think about people next to you and support them. Some of that's mine, some of that's Rob. We mushed it all together. Rob, I appreciate you. I appreciate you investing this time, and I believe time is an investment, and you invested the time with me and my listeners and the people following, paying attention to what I do. I cannot wait to meet you in person. I promise it's going to happen shortly. And everybody, look, just keep paying attention to the nonprofits in your community. Support them. It can be Rob's or it can be another one. Just get involved, man. Be part of the change. Make it a great day. Logan, great job today. Mick Collins, always checking in. Thank you for checking in and watching the show and doing all you do for me, supporting it. And thank you for this introduction to Rob. Everybody, have a great one. Make it a great one. I'll see you next Friday. Bye.
Take care.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.